Hi boys and girls, this is Math Lesson 1.4 using SRB data, which stands for Student Reference Book, the Student Reference Book data for place value work. So that's what we're going to be doing. Please make sure you get that written down as well as today's date in your math notebook. Pause this while you take care of that and then get back going again. Okay, so in your student reference book on page 282, you'll find this map, which is population, major city populations as of 2010. You can get on the SRB anytime you'd like by getting online to the Connect Ed site that we bookmarked. So take a look at that anytime you'd like to. But here's a page out of it that we're going to just use to study some numbers. So it's census data. So do you think it's perfectly accurate data for today? I hope you would say no, because this was from 2010. It won't be the same as today. And even the data from 2010, it's whatever was reported. So it's probably not perfectly accurate, but it gives us a fairly good idea, and it will be good data for what we want to use it for. So the first question I'm going to ask you when you're looking at this map is, what's the population of Columbus, Ohio? I hope you can find Michigan and then look south and find Ohio, and then you can see that the population for Columbus is 787,033. Oops, I shouldn't have said and. 787,033. Why should I not have said and right there? I hope you know, because I didn't say a decimal. And the only time we use and when we're talking numbers is when there's a decimal place in play. And right now we're not using one. So that's the population for Columbus, Ohio. If I was going to ask you, what's the value in the hundreds column? I hope you would say to me, well, there's a 0 there, so it's 0, Mrs. Kelly. And that would be right if you told me that. Okay, now let's take a look at Boston, Massachusetts. Can you find the population for Boston? Boston is in the northeast. So see if you can find that. Pause me if you're still looking, because I'm going to go forward. So Boston's population is 617,594. So if I was going to ask, what's the value of the 7 in that number? I hope you'd tell me 7,000. That would be correct. And if I was going to compare those two cities, which one is bigger, Columbus, Ohio, or Boston, Massachusetts? I hope you would tell me it's Columbus. And I could even write, excuse me, a number sentence, a comparison number sentence that would go with that. So I could write 787,033 is greater than 617,594. That would be a true comparison number sentence that would go with that data. Okay, so now let's look into the millions place. Can you find a city on here? You should be able to find a few of them that have populations in the millions. We're going to look at one of my favorite cities for this data, and that's New York City. Sometime I'll tell you about New York City. If you have never been, it is very exciting. So the population for New York City is 8,143,197 as of the 2010 census data. So we're going to use that number to go on. So 8,143,000 100, lost it, better go back, 197. Okay, so there's the number we're talking about. If you take a look at the graph that I already have on this page for you, you can see that I broke it down into little periods we talked about during the first math lesson. So when you're reading large numbers like this, I want to make sure that you know that you break each one of those periods up into their own number, and then you say the place value. And then you read the next period of numbers, and then you say the place value. So here's a period of numbers, and another one, and another one. So if I was going to read these, you would say, for the number down below, 8 million, and you only read the 8 by itself because it's the only number there in that period. So 8, and then the place value, represented by the comma, million, 143, just like you would read that number if you saw it anywhere, and then you're going to say 1,197. That's how you read those large numbers, and I just want to make sure that you understand how that goes. Okay, so looking at that large number, can you tell me the value of the 4? I hope you could tell me 40,000. If I was going to write that, 40,000 would be the value of the 4. All right, so I think that's the basic concepts we wanted to review today, looking at that large number from a map. Let's do a little bit of rounding with this data as well, and then you're going to get to work on Math Journal page 9, working with populations, and you'll be doing some rounding. So if I wanted to round this New York City data number to the nearest, let's do it to the nearest 100,000. We could do it any of the ways that we went over in the last lesson. I'm going to look at it this way. So I'm going to use a different color, and I'm going to say, so I want to, here's the number, and I said I want to do to the 100,000. So this is the column that I'm looking at right here. Therefore, I'm going to look at that number. That number is less than 5, so it will go down to a 0. It's not going to make me bump up my previous column. So I'll have the 8, I'll keep the 1, and then all of these numbers would become zeros. That's the method that I chose. You could also do that with a number line. You could also do that by giving you your 2 different options and saying which one is it closer to. So let's take a look at that. So if I did it on a number line, and this one would be 8,100,000, and this one, actually I should probably put the 2 on that side, and 8,100,000 on this side, and in between that would be 8,150,000. Just to give me a point of reference. It's going to fall on this side. The number that I'm talking about is going to fall on this side, which means it's closer to the 8,100,000, just like I had said. So I could do it that way as well. If I wanted to round to the nearest hundreds spot instead, the nearest hundredth spot, so then we're talking about, let's use yet another color. How about that pretty blue? So I want to talk about the hundreds, which means I'll look at the column to the right. That's 5 or greater, which means I'm going to make these 2 numbers 0, but I'll add 1 to this column. The numbers in front of it would stay the same. So we've got 8,143,200 if I was rounding to the hundreds place. Okay, I hope that helps. If you have questions, write them down. We'll talk about it in group, but you're going to now work on page 9 in your math journal. Good luck.